I was the owner of our family home, letting my brother Jack live with me ever since our parents passed away. Jack suddenly married Amanda after dating for only 3 months. Amanda was arrogant and looked down on me, completely unaware that I actually owned the house. One evening, Amanda confronted me about freeloading in her husband's house. She had no idea what was coming next. Before I tell you how everything went down, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button because you will not believe how this situation unraveled when the truth came out. 8 years ago, my parents died in a tragic car accident that changed everything for my younger brother Jack and me. As the oldest son at 32, I inherited our family home, a beautiful 2-story house in an upscale neighborhood with a spacious backyard and renovated interiors. Our parents had paid off the mortgage years before, making me the sole owner of a property now worth over $700,000. I run a successful small tech company specializing in software development for local businesses. Though I could afford a place of my own elsewhere, I chose to keep the family home for sentimental reasons. It was where Jack and I grew up, where every corner held memories of our parents. Plus, working from home gave me the flexibility to maintain the property and keep an eye on my younger brother. Jack, 5 years younger than me, has always been the artistic type. He bounces between freelance graphic design gigs, occasional bartending, and his true passion, painting. His creative spirit makes him wonderful company, but terrible with finances. After our parents died, it seemed natural to let him continue living in the family home with me. I never asked for rent, only that he contribute to utilities and groceries when he could afford it. Our house is quite spacious. 2 floors, 4 bedrooms, a finished basement I converted into my home office, and a large kitchen that our mother would have loved seeing us use more often. Over the years, I invested nearly $50,000 in renovations, new roof-updated bathrooms, and a complete kitchen overhaul. Jack helped with the labor, but I covered all the costs. This was our sanctuary, our piece of stability in a world that had taken our parents too soon. For 8 years, Jack and I lived together comfortably. We respected each other's space and privacy. He occupied the east wing of the house with his bedroom and a small studio. I helped him set up, while I took the master bedroom and adjacent office on the west side. We shared the common areas and generally got along well. We had our occasional brotherly disputes, but nothing serious. We were each other's only family, and we made it work. Everything changed 3 months ago, when Jack met Amanda at a gallery where he was showing some paintings. She was 32, worked as a bank loan officer, and according to Jack, she was absolutely perfect. I was happy for him initially. Jack had dated on and off over the years, but never seemed to find someone who truly appreciated him for who he was. Their relationship moved at lightning speed. Within weeks, Amanda was staying over regularly. Within 2 months, Jack was talking about marriage. I tried to counsel patience, but Jack was head over heels. He could not see past her beauty and charm to recognize the red flags that were obvious to me. The way she subtly criticized his artwork, her constant comments about the wasted potential of our house, the calculating look in her eyes when she asked about our family history. Just 89 days after their first date, Jack and Amanda got married at the courthouse with only me and her friend as witnesses. No reception, no celebration, just a quick ceremony and papers signed. Jack seemed delighted, but something felt off. That evening, I did some digging online and discovered some troubling information. Amanda had been married twice before. Each marriage lasted less than 2 years, and each ended with her walking away with substantial assets. Her first husband was a real estate developer 20 years her senior. Her second was a surgeon who lost his practice after their divorce. The pattern was clear, but Jack was too enamored to see it. The day after the courthouse wedding, Amanda officially moved in. She arrived with 6 suitcases and immediately began rearranging furniture in the living room without asking either of us. I tried to be welcoming for Jack's sake, maintaining a polite distance while she settled in. But from the beginning, her attitude toward me carried a subtle undercurrent of condescension. That first week, Amanda replaced our family photos with her own art choices, abstract paintings that cost a fortune but looked like something a child could create. When I mentioned that one of the photos she removed was the last picture taken of our parents, she simply shrugged and said, "The past is the past. Time to make new memories." Jack, standing behind her, gave me an apologetic look, but said nothing. Amanda gradually claimed more and more of the common areas. She converted our dining room into her home office despite having a perfectly good desk in Jack's studio. She brought in new couches without discussion and had our perfectly good old ones hauled away while I was at a client meeting. When I returned home to find strangers removing furniture I had grown up with, Amanda simply said, "We needed an upgrade." "Do not worry." Jack approved it. About a month after moving in, Amanda invited her mother to visit. I overheard her giving the tour, speaking as if the house belonged exclusively to her and Jack. "Look at the beautiful kitchen we have, Mom. Jack and I are thinking of expanding it next year." Not once did she mention that I owned the home or that I had paid for the kitchen renovation just 2 years earlier. That same evening, while returning from getting a glass of water, I passed by the guest room where Amanda was talking on the phone. I did not mean to eavesdrop, but her words caught my attention. "Yes, it is happening faster than I expected. Such a big house in this neighborhood. Once his brother moves out, we will have so much space. Maybe we could rent out the extra rooms for income." My suspicions growing, I began researching Amanda more thoroughly. What I found confirmed my worst fears. Her first husband lost his beach house in the divorce. Her second husband had to sell his medical practice to meet the settlement terms. Both men had been financially stable before meeting her. Both were struggling afterward, and in both cases, the marriages fell apart shortly after major assets were in play. Jack changed during this time. My once close brother became distant, canceling our traditional Sunday football sessions and barely making eye contact during the rare times we were both home. Whenever there was a disagreement between Amanda and me, no matter how small, Jack automatically sided with her. The brotherhood that had sustained us through the loss of our parents was fracturing before my eyes. Amanda began making comments about me within earshot. "A 40-year-old man should have his own place by now." Or to Jack, "Does not it feel crowded having your brother always around?" Once, when she thought I had left for the day, I heard her tell Jack, "I know he is your brother, but he is such a downer. We could do so much with this house, if it was just us." One afternoon I came home early and found Amanda in my home office, rifling through my filing cabinet. When confronted, she claimed she was looking for the Wi-Fi password. But the drawer she was searching contained property documents, tax records, and insurance papers. The next day, I noticed faint fingerprints on the glass covering my parents' will that hung framed in the hallway, a sentimental display that also clearly stated I was the sole inheritor of the house. Through the thin walls, I overheard a phone conversation where Amanda told someone, "It is just a matter of time before we have the house to ourselves." His brother is the mooching type, but Jack is finally seeing how pathetic it is to have him around. Once he is gone, the house goes to Jack as the only remaining family. I cannot wait to renovate everything. The tension escalated when Amanda began hosting dinner parties without telling me. I would come home to find 8 or 10 strangers in our living room, drinking wine and giving me confused looks when I walked in. At one such gathering, I heard her introduce Jack as the owner of this beautiful home while I stood just around the corner. The situation reached a breaking point when I returned one day to find all the locks changed on the common areas. Amanda had given Jack a key, but not me. When I confronted her, she simply said, "Jack and I need more privacy. You can use the side entrance to get to your room." I had to explain to my own brother that as the legal homeowner, changing locks without my knowledge was unacceptable. He reluctantly gave me a copy of the new keys, but the damage to our relationship was evident in his apologetic but distant demeanor. After 3 months of escalating tension, Everything came to a head on a Tuesday evening. I had been at an important client meeting and returned home around 9:30 p.m. to find the house full of people. Amanda was hosting what appeared to be a lavish dinner party for about 15 of her friends and colleagues. Music was blaring, wine was flowing freely, and expensive catering trays covered our kitchen counters. When I walked in, conversation momentarily halted. Amanda, clearly intoxicated, looked at me with open disdain before loudly announcing to the room, "And here is the brother I was telling you all about. 40 years old and still living with his younger brother." Quite the achievement, right? The room filled with uncomfortable laughter as all eyes turned to me. I maintained my composure, nodded politely to the guests, and headed toward the kitchen for a glass of water. Amanda followed me, wineglass in hand, and continued her commentary just loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "You know, most men your age own their own homes by now. Instead of, leeching off their more successful siblings." Rather than creating a scene, I simply said, "Good to see you too, Amanda," and retreated to my room. Through the walls, I could hear her continuing to mock me, referring to me as poor Jack's burden and the eternal bachelor without prospects. I stayed in my room seething, but determined not to escalate in front of strangers. The next morning, with the guests gone and the house a disaster of empty bottles and dirty plates, Amanda cornered me in the kitchen. She was wearing an expensive silk robe and sporting a smug expression despite what must have been a substantial hangover. "Look, Alan," she said, filling her coffee cup. "Jack and I have been talking, and we feel it is time you started paying rent or found your own place. This freeloading arrangement might have worked when Jack was single, but we are married now. We need our space." I was stunned by her audacity. Pay rent. In my own house, I kept my voice level and asked, "Have you discussed this with Jack directly?" "Of course," she replied with a dismissive wave. "He agrees completely. He is just too nice to tell you himself. You know how he is always worried about hurting feelings." I found Jack in his studio later that day and asked him about Amanda's claims. His response crushed me. He could not meet my eyes as he mumbled, "Maybe Amanda has a point, bro. You know about getting your own place eventually. Not right away, but maybe start looking. We could help with the deposit on an apartment." I could hardly believe my ears. After 8 years of living together, after all we had been through, Jack was siding with a woman he had known for barely 3 months. I simply nodded and left his studio, deciding it was time to retrieve the house deed and other important documents from my safe deposit box at the bank. When I returned home the next day, with the paperwork, I discovered my office had been thoroughly searched. Files were slightly out of place, and the spare key to my filing cabinet was no longer hidden in my desk drawer. Amanda had clearly been looking for something specific. Over the next week, Amanda intensified her campaign. She changed the Wi-Fi password without telling me. The electricity to my office mysteriously cut out for hours at a time. Food I had purchased disappeared from the refrigerator. She held loud phone conversations outside my door at midnight. It was a coordinated effort to make living conditions unbearable. Jack became her reluctant enforcer, awkwardly relaying her latest demands. "Hey bro, Amanda thinks we should divide the utility bills differently since there are 2 of us and 1 of you. Or Amanda was wondering if you could park on the street instead of the driveway." The final straw came on a Friday afternoon. I returned from a coffee meeting to find Amanda in our living room with a stranger in a business suit. They were discussing renovation possibilities and property values. The woman had a real estate agency logo on her portfolio. As I walked in, Amanda was saying, "Once the house is just ours, we will definitely want to list it. The market in this neighborhood is hot, and we could easily upgrade to something even larger." I cleared my throat. "What is going on here?" Amanda turned momentarily startled before regaining her composure. She introduced the woman as Stephanie, a real estate agent, then added with cold eyes, "We are discussing future plans." "Nothing that concerns you." "Future plans for my house?" I asked, keeping my voice deliberately calm. Amanda's face contorted with irritation. She stood up, hands on hips. It is not your house. It is Jack's family home that you have been taking advantage of for years. And frankly, we are tired of your pathetic presence. You are a 40-year-old leech who cannot get his own place. It is time for you to go. I could not help it. I burst out laughing. The sheer audacity was almost impressive. The real estate agent looked increasingly uncomfortable as I continued chuckling. Try to make me, I finally said, wiping tears of laughter from my eyes. Amanda's face turned crimson. Fine. She pulled out her phone. I am calling the police. We will see who belongs here and who does not. True to her word, she dialed 911 and reported in a voice suddenly trembling with manufactured fear that there was an intruder refusing to leave her home. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived at the door. Officer Wilson and Officer Davis listened patiently as Amanda dramatically recounted how I was her husband's deadbeat brother who refused to leave their property despite multiple requests. Jack stood behind her, looking miserable, but not contradicting her story. When she finished her performance, Officer Wilson turned to me. Sir, do you have anything to say? In response, I simply smiled and handed him the folder I had retrieved from the bank. Inside was the deed to the house with my name, as sole owner, my parents' will naming me, as inheritor tax records showing I had paid property taxes for 8 years and receipts for the major renovations I had funded. As Officer Wilson reviewed the documents, the color drained from Amanda's face. Jack stepped forward, confusion written across his features. Wait, what is all this? The house is not mine. It has always been in my name, Jack, I explained gently. Mom and Dad left it to me with the understanding I would always give you a home here. And I have. Officer Davis, reviewing the paperwork over his partner's shoulder, looked at Amanda. Ma'am, according to these documents, this gentleman is the legal owner of the property. If anyone has the right to ask someone to leave, it would be him. Amanda's shock quickly morphed into rage. She whirled on Jack. You told me this house would be yours. You said your parents left it to both of you. Jack shook his head, bewilderment clear in his expression. I never said that. I just said it was our family home. I never claimed to own it. That is when Amanda completely lost control. She screamed accusations at Jack, called me several unprintable names, and began grabbing decorative items, throwing them against the wall. The officers quickly intervened, suggesting that perhaps Amanda needed some time to cool off elsewhere. As the reality of the situation sank in, Amanda stormed upstairs, slamming doors and cursing loudly as she threw her belongings into suitcases. The real estate agent had long since slipped out during the commotion, leaving her business card on the coffee table with a hastily scribbled apology. After the police verified I was indeed the rightful owner of the house, they stayed until Amanda had packed her essential items. She refused to look at either Jack or me as she dragged her suitcases to her car, slamming the trunk with enough force to rattle the windows. Before leaving, she shouted one final accusation at Jack, calling him a liar and a fraud, before screeching away in her luxury sedan that, as I later discovered, Jack had been making payments on. The silence that followed her departure was deafening. Jack collapsed onto the couch head in his hands. I have been such an idiot, he whispered, voice breaking. She told me she loved me for my potential, that she saw greatness in me no one else did. I believed her. I sat beside my brother, placing a hand on his shoulder. We all get blinded sometimes. She was very good at what she does. Over a bottle of our dad's favorite whiskey that I had been saving for a special occasion, Jack and I talked through the night. I shared what I had discovered about Amanda's past, her pattern of targeting men with assets, and how she had been planning to convince Jack to sell the house once I was out of the picture. She must have assumed I would leave eventually. I explained, pouring us each another finger of whiskey. Then the house would appear to be Jack's, and she could pressure him to sell it and upgrade, taking half the proceeds when she inevitably divorced him a year later. Jack looked devastated. 3 weeks before the wedding, she started asking questions about the house. who owned it, what it was worth. She suggested I might want to add her to the deed as a wedding present. I told her I could not do that, but I did not explain why. I guess she assumed. I know, I reassured him. You did not deliberately lie to her. She heard what she wanted to hear and filled in the gaps with her assumptions. In the months that followed, Jack moved through the stages of grief for his failed marriage. Amanda filed for divorce almost immediately, attempting to claim half the value of the house as communal property. Her case fell apart when our lawyer presented evidence that not only was the house solely in my name, but the marriage had lasted less than 4 months. I supported Jack through this dark period both emotionally and financially. He fell into a depression for a while, questioning his judgment and worth. I helped him find a therapist and encouraged him to reconnect with his old friends, many of whom Amanda had alienated during their whirlwind relationship. 6 months after Amanda's dramatic exit, Jack secured a position as an art teacher at a local community center. The steady income and creative fulfillment helped rebuild his confidence. He started painting again, producing some of his best work fueled by the emotional journey he had experienced. On the 1-year anniversary of our parents' passing, I made a decision that surprised even me. I had my lawyer draw up new paperwork transferring 50% ownership of our family home to Jack. When I presented him with the documents, he was speechless. I do not understand, he finally said. After what happened with Amanda, after I almost lost our home to her schemes, you are giving me half. I explained that our parents would have wanted us to share their legacy. That I trusted Jack completely, despite his temporary lapse in judgment. We added clauses preventing either of us from selling without the other's consent, ensuring our family home would remain in the family. The experience transformed our relationship. Jack became more responsible, contributing equally to home maintenance, and even funding some renovations with his growing income from art sales. We established clear boundaries and communication that had been missing before making our shared living arrangement stronger than ever. As for Amanda, we heard through mutual acquaintances that she had moved to another state and was dating a widowed restaurant owner with several successful establishments. Some people never change their patterns. The most valuable lesson I learned through this ordeal was about the nature of family and trust. A house is just walls and a roof. A home is built on honesty, respect, and unconditional support. Family is not just about sharing a last name or a space. It is about standing by each other when storms come, and ours had been a hurricane. True family is not measured by blood or legal documents, but by who remains when the dust settles. In our case, it was just Jack and me again, stronger for having weathered Amanda's scheme together. If you have ever had to stand your ground against someone trying to take what is rightfully yours, I would love to hear your story in the comments below. Has someone ever made assumptions about what you own or what you deserve? How did you handle it? Hit subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family dynamics and the unexpected challenges we face together. Like this video if you think Jack and I made the right decision to remain family, despite everything that happened. And share with someone who might need a reminder that sometimes the strongest foundations are the ones that have been tested. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that, while property deeds may determine ownership, they can never dictate the true meaning of home.